Did you know that although Reservoir Dogs had a successful run through film festivals and generated positive word of mouth before the film was ever screened, its first showing at the 1992 Sundance Film Festival was a projection disaster. With the choice of screening locations not up to filmmakers, the festival chose to screen the film at the Holiday Village Cinema, a theater which executive producer Richard Gladstein was not a fan of. Reservoir Dogs had been shot in widescreen and was carefully composed to show information on both sides of the frame. However, the projectionist at the Holiday Village Cinema did not have the appropriate aperture plate required in order to fit the image into the dimensions of the screen itself, and as a result, a third of the widescreen image was projected onto the curtains. Richard Gladstein remembers, "There were scenes when Michael Madsen had lines of dialogue and you couldn't even see him, so I was having a fit." Gladstein was not alone. Director Quentin Tarentino walked down the aisle and yelled, "Stop! I can't take this! This is the first public screening of the only film I've ever made. You don't understand! This is horrible!" As a result of this fiasco, Jeffrey Gilmore, the director of the festival, made sure that the projection booth was properly equipped for subsequent showings. Nevertheless, the film did not go on to win prizes at Sundance. Upon its 1992 release, Reservoir Dogs was hailed by critics as a strong debut on the part of a first-time director. However, this had not been Tarantino's first film. Over the course of 3 years in the late 1980s, Quentin Tarantino directed his real first film called My Best Friend's Birthday. The black and white film was shot with a 16mm Bolex camera with a budget of $5,000. His cast and crew were made up of coworkers, friends, and acting school classmates, one of whom went on to make an appearance in Reservoir Dogs. Actor Rich Turner, who plays a character named Oliver in My Best Friend's Birthday, appears in Reservoir Dogs as Sheriff Number 1, telling a story during the commode scene. Although most of Birthday was destroyed in a film lab fire, Tarantino made sure one major element of the remaining film was reused in Dogs. Fictional radio station KBLI, pronounced K-Billy, plays a prominent role in Reservoir Dogs as K-Billy's Super Sounds of the 70s. The director explains, "The radio station is sort of this invisible character that goes throughout. Me and Roger Avery wrote all the commercials that went into the movie, traffic reports, editorials, and everything. We got a bunch of actors and recorded them, and that's what's playing. You can't hear them that well, but it was great fun creating your own world that way." The radio station was mentioned multiple times by various characters, but its most memorable point of reference was undoubtedly made by Michael Madsen's psychopathic Mr. Blonde.
You ever listen to K-Billy's Super Sounds of the 70s?
While waiting to shoot the infamous ear-cutting scene, Michael Madsen was approached by Kirk Baltz, who played Officer Marvin Nash. Baltz thought it would be good research to experience being held in a trunk as hostage, and asked if they could try it in Madsen's car. Madsen agreed and put Baltz in the trunk of his Coupe de Ville, planning only to drive around the block and back again. The exercise did not go as planned. Once behind the wheel, Madsen realized it was good research for him too, as he'd never held a hostage in his trunk before, so Madsen took it a step further. He drove through an alleyway full of potholes, banging Baltz around his trunk as Baltz screamed for him to stop as he was hit with several objects in the trunk. En route back to the set, Madsen noticed a Taco Bell and stopped at the drive-thru in order to buy a taco and a drink for himself. Madsen turned up his music in order to disguise the sound of Baltz in the trunk. When they finally returned to the warehouse, Baltz was sweating and furious. Though accounts conflict on whether Baltz was crying or not, Baltz denies it. During subsequent rehearsing, Madsen continued sipping on the drink he ordered, and Quentin Tarantino decided it would be a great touch for the character, Mr. Blonde having stopped for a drink on the way to the rendezvous. However, the original Taco Bell cup was replaced in the film, in case Taco Bell didn't appreciate the association. The ear-cutting scene took 5 hours to shoot, and was shot in 3 different ways. In the final film, the camera pans away as the ear is severed, but alternate takes exist in which the ear cutting is depicted, including a close-up shot of the ear as it's being severed. When actor Tim Roth initially met Quentin Tarantino, the director asked him which role he was interested in, Mr. Blonde or Mr. Pink. To the director's surprise, Roth chose Mr. Orange, as the actor was fascinated with the aspect of playing a role within a role. On playing an undercover detective infiltrating the gang, Roth says, "I'm a liar. I'm creating my own fiction within a fiction, a lie within a lie." However, Roth was apprehensive about reading for the part. According to Roth himself, he never read for acting roles because he believed himself to be so bad at readings that he would ruin his chances of getting the roles he read for. Over a lunch with Roth and Tarantino, actor and producer Harvey Keitel tried to persuade Roth into reading, but Roth was still reluctant. Once Harvey Keitel left, however, Roth and Tarantino decided to go to a pub, and from there, only after a night of hard drinking was Roth persuaded into reading for Mr. Orange. For Mr. Blonde, Tarantino's choice was Michael Madsen, but the actor preferred the role of Mr. Pink. Madsen says, "He had the most interesting dialogue. I thought Mr. Blonde was a kind of boring character." Not yet committed to the project, Madsen approached Tarantino at his office about this, but the director stood firm on his casting choice. Also in the room were producers Lawrence Bender, Richard Gladstein, and actor Harvey Keitel, who was mysteriously barefoot. Apparently, before Madsen came in, an actor blew his audition because he was distracted by a barefooted Keitel cleaning his toes on the couch. Mr. Pink, on the other hand, was written for Tarantino himself. Deciding he would need to focus more on directing the film, Tarantino gave up the role to Steve Buscemi. However, Tarantino cast himself as Mr. Brown and appropriated some of Mr. Pink's dialogue for his own character, the Madonna speech.
The entire song is a metaphor for big dicks.
Confirming a belief on this riff on Like a Virgin, Quentin says, "I'm positive it's the case. I have no doubt in my mind she is going to come to me and say, 'Quentin, you're 100% right, that's exactly what the song's about.' And I was laughing my ass off when all these 14-year-old girls were singing it, because that's what it was." Jamie Bernard, author of Quentin Tarantino, The Man and His Movies, writes that when the director finally met the pop star, he was given a copy of her album Erotica. On the album, a message was inscribed, "To Quentin, it's about love, not dick." The Madonna speech was one of numerous monologues Quentin Tarantino had written for himself in acting classes, but the source of Mr. Pink's tipping dialogue may have been less deliberate. Former Video Archives colleague Lance Lawson says, "I almost stopped going out to eat with Quentin because Quentin was the Steve Buscemi character in Dogs. He wouldn't tip, and he had such a problem with it. He just did not understand the concept."
You know what this is? It's the world's smallest violin playing just for the waitresses.
That's all for today, but subscribe for more facts and trivia. And if you like video games, check out Did You Know Gaming. We'd also like you to vote on what film or show you want to see more on, Pulp Fiction or Kill Bill. Click on the annotations or comment below to vote.